I'm a bit of a talker, a bit of a pacer, so I'm going to attempt this on the old handheld mic here. So here we go, this is me. So it's been just over a year since we published the BHA report sponsored by the Racing Foundation into environmental sustainability in British horse racing. And I was asked to come here today to talk about where we're at in the industry 1 year on. But reflecting on the title of today's conference, I thought it was important not just to take you through a series of slides that say, oh, they're doing this, and they're doing this, and they're doing this, and we're finished. I thought maybe we could conduct a little bit of a behaviour change experiment, a sort of 20 minutes, sort of sustainability version of speed dating, I suppose. Because I spend my days, weeks, months, years talking to people about environmental sustainability, and I've discovered that really everyone fits into one of a few different camps, and it totally informs their behaviour and their attitude to what's going on. Some of you may be familiar with this. This is the Kubler-Ross curve. And this is basically, well, it's from the 1960s actually. This is a change curve that was created for processing how people deal with grief. But it was later adopted by the business industry, and in fact globally, to be a representation of the process that you go through for any period of change. And what I'm going to do today is just identify where in the industry everybody's at, because everywhere is somewhere on this curve. And I thought it might be quite fun to just have a look at that and move us on, because ultimately our industry is changing, the environment's changing, and we have to change too. We have to progress through this curve, and we're going to do that in the next 18 minutes. So, first and foremost, since this report has come out, these are some of the things I've heard from people in the shock and denial phase. So the dinosaurs died out, they did nothing wrong, I don't think we should really bother. It's just a natural ebb and flow of climate. Our impact is so small compared to China, why bother? And so on and so forth. And this is really natural. This shock and denial phase comes from fear, lack of understanding, not really wanting to face the really horrible reports and images that we see all the time. And let's be really clear about this. Everybody, myself included, has appeared somewhere, has gone through this process and felt this on this curve. I've hated solar panels. I've hated veganism. I've been really aggressively anti the whole topic. I get it. I have absolutely been in the shock and denial phase. And it wasn't really until I sort of started to understand and read all the reports that I could get a steer and move on to the next phase. So don't worry, there's going to be no Slido, no raising of hands, but I'm 100% certain, and those of you in the room will know why, that there are people in the room that are at this phase. And that's fine, that's okay. What we're going to do is try and help progress you, maybe in the next 20 minutes, who knows, on to the next one. So in order to do that, the inevitable horrendousness of the climate change person's slide presentation. So here we go. The environmental picture. This is what's happened in the last 12 months. The last 12 months since the report came out. Hawaii, Portugal, Athens, Canada, Rhodes, the whole of Europe, Hong Kong. It goes on and on and on. This is New Zealand, and the president of New Zealand said he was expecting a plague of locusts because the storm was so bad. And this is just a fraction of what's happened, just a fraction. We're not in 1980 anymore. We're not talking about predicting climate change. We're in it. We're absolutely in it. And these events are frequent, they're ferocious, they're getting worse. So if you are in the space of, dare I say, denial or doubt or, yeah, it might just be something else, it might be time to concede that we are where we are, okay? And you've begun to see it with your own eyes, because the extreme weather that is occurring is a reality of climate change, and it's hitting the UK. So these are just some of the statistics. Again, the last 12 months, warmest year on record. First time temperatures went over 40 degrees. All of the months of the year except December, warmest on average. Warmest near coast sea surface temperatures. Driest month since 1976. Hottest year on record, hottest June on record, wettest July on record, warmest September on record. I mean, it's a little bit embarrassing, really, isn't it? It just goes on and on and on. And we know that the Met Office are almost certainly going to announce that 2023 was also the warmest on record. It's just going to continue. And this won't come as a surprise to anyone that's read any of the reports, including ours. This is all predicted. We know this is going to happen. It's going to get worse. It's going to get worse before it gets better. But the change curve is about making sure that it does get better. And we are responsible for that. And that is empowering. So, of course, every country that I've talked about has a sporting event, and sport is incredibly vulnerable to climate change. And by the way, I've only talked about climate change, but of course we have to bear in mind biodiversity loss, water shortages, chronic resource. It goes on and on and on. And this, as you will know, is Lord Cohen. This is what he said just a couple of months ago. I genuinely don't think governments are going to meet any of the targets that are being identified. And this is very much a personal view. I'm not speaking on behalf of World Athletics. It's something I've felt very strongly about for a long time. Constituent groups like sport are going to have to figure this out for themselves, because I don't think we can rely on governments to remotely get to grips with what's going on to be a massive shift in reality in the next few years. Now, it's really important not to get political about climate change. It's not a political topic, it's an existential one. But the point that he's making is that change is going to happen. And I think probably looking at his quote, he's very much in the depression phase at the moment, maybe the frustration phase. And that's fine. And it's understandable because sport has been hit so badly. I mean, this image here is quite a famous one of tennis players really struggling in chronic heat. We've seen that winter sports are affected in a really terrible way. I mean, literally no snow. Equestrian events struggling with flooding, so many cancellations. So we're conducting some work with equestrianism at the moment, very privileged to do so. In eventing, 6 of the 9 events at the point we were talking to them had been cancelled. This is reality for sport, and so we need to change. Horse racing wise, so these are some of the risks that we identified in our report. And they were all coming home to roost. So ground conditions. If you talk to Adrian here at York Racecourse, an absolutely tremendous groundsman, he will tell you of the vast amounts of money and time they've had to invest in making sure that these are some of the best ground conditions in the world for racing. Horse welfare. Fortunately, we're seeing this, the impact of climate change, and particularly sudden temperatures changes, really impacting horse welfare. Heat stroke in particular. Biosecurity, the government has now formed a specific panel of experts, particularly from the equine veterinary circle, to identify, work through and plan for the likely and inevitable advent of vector-borne diseases coming to the UK because of the rise in temperatures. The leisure water charter has now come into effect. Resource availability has impacted the equine sector because of problems with farming in Europe over the last 12 months. Activism. You can't fail to have noticed the growth of activism in sport. We've been hammered this year by it. Cancellations to extreme weather. New reporting requirements, they've come in. If you don't know about it, you need to know about it. Changes in legislation. Plastics, that came in October. Commercial partnerships under threat. Land Rover, etc. All being questioned about whether they're doing the right thing. The BP deal, so on and so forth. All of these risks impact horse racing, and they're all coming home to roost. So the understanding and acceptance of this situation leads you on the curve to frustration and depression. And in my experience, this is where the largest cohort of people are. So in the room, I suspect there are a lot of you who might identify with some of these statements. The problem's so huge, I just don't think we can make an impact. I feel so guilty, but I don't know what to do. Why can't people see we need to do something? I can't do this on my own, and so on and so forth. This is a really, really common place that people sit in. I know it's a problem. I don't know what to do. The best way I know to get people from here to the next step is to show you what the next step looks like. And this is where we come to the good stuff. Horse racing. Horse racing in the environment, apparently not, have progressed from this depression and fear into what we next call experiment decision. Taking one step at a time. Trying things, seeing what might work, seeing what change looks like. So probably one of my favorites in the ladies' room will know where I got this from. I thought perhaps if I just wash my cleaning cloths rather than using disposable ones, that's the least I can do. Amazing. Little tiny thing makes a difference. I just feel a moral obligation to try. I'm talking to my suppliers to see if they can help me, so on and so forth. Little steps, making inquiries, trying to do different things. I'm very, very thrilled that Ben is going to be taking the stage after me to talk about football. And here are just a few ways that the sporting industry, of which we are a part, are making that progression. The Women's World Cup players launching the huge climate campaign, Green Football Weekend. I don't want to talk too much because I don't want to steal Ben's thunder. The environmental strategy from the UK sport team, incredibly ambitious, mandating the requirement for all sports to have sustainability strategies by 2025. Sport England have just come out and said funding is contingent on having a sustainability strategy now. Sport England, there we go, tells funding will stop depending on the climate crisis. Commonwealth Games, Edgbaston, it goes on and on and on and on and on. Hopefully you're seeing more of this in the news. And of course, horse racing has been doing the same thing. Now, intentionally, not everything's up here, because I hope that some of you will say, well, mine's not up there and we're doing stuff. Good, great, get annoyed, shout about it, publicize it, tell people about what you're doing. Because in 2023, horse racing really stepped up. Ascot, fantastic. Finally, after years of doing amazing work, and many of you will know about this already, nothing to do with me, I'm not singing my work praises, this is them. They finally put their sustainability strategy out. Goodwood, as well, have been working for a long, long time on this. York Racecourse, phenomenal. I'm very proud to have them as a client, and they are probably the most fabulous team I've ever worked with. Green Knavesmire 300 represents years of hard work, years. And I was going to talk all about it, but Amy, I'm thrilled to hear, is joining the panel after us, and I think that she should have the honour of talking about it. But maybe even more than that is the so-called smaller racecourses. So Beverley, Ripon, so on and so forth. Fakenham, really, no longer saying, oh, I can't afford. It's all right for Ascot. They've got loads of money. I can't afford to do anything. They're not in that headspace anymore. They've progressed through the change curve. They're making changes. It's got nothing to do with me. They're doing this completely off their own bat, and it's fabulous. It's great to see. Outside of race courses, because of course it's not all about the race courses, the supply chain, trainers, it's lovely to see Kate Sigsworth here, lots and lots of people stepping up. So here you've got Kaya Equestrian Clothing, we're starting to see more of that. Duralock Fencing, they're currently conducting a full project into the carbon footprint of all of their fencing, and have developed an entirely circular system, which they use here at York. This here, Whitaker, it's the first hybrid enormous horse transport. You'll be disappointed to hear that it's gone straight to show jumping. So horse racing didn't get a look in, but it's a hugely efficient, far cheaper, far greener way of working. This one here, the first electric Equitrek, the first electric horse transporter. Down here, Red Mills have developed 12,000 metre square wetlands to prevent pollution going into the water. And Agria, the first carbon positive equine insurer. The list goes on and on and on. This is what it looks like. This is what success looks like. And it would be remiss of me to be at the Racing Foundation without talking about their work too. So you'll probably all be aware that there's an annual sustainability award with a financial award attached. Fantastic. Put your money where your mouth is. And actually on that, put your money where your mouth is, all the work that these people are doing is reaping benefits. The fact that the conference is here today in York is because York have established a sustainability strategy. That's the reason. So they're financially benefiting. The TBA Carbon Calculator tool, which I believe is something that's coming out soon, and will be a fantastic piece of work. Today, Sustainable Racing Conference, Sustainable Communications, you'll have seen it in their emails and all sorts. They're getting out, they're talking about it. And finally, the BRS, British Racing School Environmental Sustainability course. Now, this one I am proud of because I was lucky enough to be able to write this for the industry. And the British Racing School, for a long time, have really held sustainability very close to their hearts. They do an awful lot, but first and foremost, they're educators of the industry, particularly the future of the industry. So it's incredibly important to make sure that everybody knows what the problem is and how to sort it out. So this course, which is running, the first of which is running on the 7th of November, very, very, very generously sponsored by the Racing Foundation. And it will be running all year next year as well. And this is all about, if you are stuck at the denial phase, or even if you're at the depression phase, or even if you're just looking for some top tips of what to do, this course is all about making sure that after a full day with myself and the very beautiful, talented, wonderful Elizabeth, who's here in the room today and is running the course with me, it's making sure that you have the confidence to talk about the topic and that you know on a practical basis how to make changes. You know how to put a strategy in place. You know who to look for funding. So if that's of interest, then please do either grab Beth or me or take a look on the website. And all of those businesses are moving towards this final stage, integration. This is the amazing feeling where you are just doing it as a matter of course. So it's what we stand for, it's who we are, it's what we do. And I would personally say that York are in this place. I can see a way forward. I know that we can do it. If we want a high-value product, we need high-value soil. This is what a breeder said to me. We want to be the best in the world, so we have to be sustainable to the highest level. And maybe, I think they're probably going to kill me for saying this, but I think the best example of a company or an individual that embodies integration would be Ree, Anna, and Antonia, who arranged today's racing conference. Because not only have they looked into every single crevice of what needs to be sustainable, the utter joy with which they brandish pens at me. Ree galloped at me like a gazelle this morning, brandishing a pen in her hand and a lanyard and saying, "Look, I managed to get the ones made out of recycled bottles." Okay, it's not the highlight of her career, but it gives her a lot of joy. And that's the point, that we have to move from pictures of fire and drought and flood and depression and you're ruining your children's future to, oh my gosh, this is amazing and I'm really proud of what we're doing. And that's the integration stage. And it's just part of the process of change. So where are you at on this journey? Seriously, where are you all at on this journey on a personal level and at a business level? Because it is a journey. If you are here right now, that's completely okay and it's completely understandable. This is a horrible topic. I wish I was 10 again. I wish I didn't have to think about it. But you can, have to, and will progress through these stages. Because in order to get to the point where we're not talking about fires and floods, we're talking about really wonderful things and a really exciting future, we all have to progress through this phase of change. So I have 2 minutes and 21 seconds left. There's quite a lot of detail on here, but this, to my mind, is what that process looks like on a practical level. If you're a racecourse, at a minimum, you've got to have a strategy and roadmap. You've got to. That's just basic. 2024, 2025, we're looking for reductions, water management plan, definitely removal of plastics, waste management systems, nature management plan, racegoer engagement. Massive, massive area of opportunity, and Ben's going to talk about what that looks like in a really successful way. And ultimately, in the long term, we do need to be thinking about net zero targets. We do need to be thinking about water self-sufficiency, zero plastics, carbon sequestration, biodiversity enhancements. All of this is possible. All of this is being done in other industries. All of this is positive change. It will benefit the industry. If you're an equestrian business, okay, it might not be appropriate to be thinking about strategies, but evaluate the impact and your risks. Think about a water management plan. Think about how you can reduce things. Think about how you can engage your staff. If you're here from a charity or another entity, again, it might not be necessary or appropriate to go down the strategy route. It might be if you're a massive charity, like Rowley's, but think about an environmental charter and a staff engagement plan. And if you're an individual, if you're just sat here as an individual, either because you're a freelancer, or you're a groom, or you're a rider, or whatever, think about your own carbon footprint. Maybe think about 6 things I can change in 2024, just 6, once every 2 months. Can I do a little bit less of one thing, or can I do a little bit more of one thing? At a minimum, this is the simplest way of looking at it. Educate yourself. Get started with something. Talk about what you're doing and celebrate every single win. Because that's what we need to do. We need to progress through these levels. Wherever you're at, you're just paused there right now. That's not the space you own. You can move to the next level. And this is how you do it. This is what you need to do. I've got 5 seconds left. But I wanted to say 2 things. Number one of the big reasons why Ben is here is because football is the biggest sport in the world. Fact. Horse racing is the second biggest in the UK. If the 2 biggest sports can go through that change process and come out the other side to protect your future and harness the power of sport to influence a majority of the population, that is an incredibly powerful place to be. And the terrifying thought is, it's in the hands of everyone in this room. It really is. People create change. And perhaps a very small anecdote before I hand over to yourselves. It was amazing to hear about cricket this morning, because as a very, very young girl, I was really quite a good cricketer. My dad actually played for Gloucestershire, and it's not entirely implausible that the willow rubbed off a little bit. And I used to play most evenings until I went to secondary school. And when I went to secondary school, I lined up on the, getting shaky, because it's actually quite an emotional thing for me, and any women in the room will get this. I lined up at the batting nets, and I was stood at the back of this long line, and I got to the front, and the PE teacher hollered to the gentleman at the end, the young lad, "Put down your bat." Oh, God, what the hell? And he said, "Women don't play cricket." And I said, "Oh, please, I've been playing cricket since I was little. You know, I just want to practice my bowling." "Absolutely not. Go away." That was the end of my non-existent cricket career, okay, at the age of 11, gone. So to see the video with those women playing to such a high standard, holding that trophy aloft, is the perfect personal and sport-based example of the power of change. But the most important thing about that is it didn't happen by osmosis. It happened because people gradually chipped away at the problem. They gradually invited women to pick up the bat and ball. They gradually allowed them to play at a professional level, and they supported one another. Change is an incredibly powerful thing. It is a human-driven process. It creates possibility. It changes people's lives. It moves you from the negative to the positive, one incredibly courageous step at a time. Thank you.